The rain hammered against the windows of our little cottage in the Cotswolds, mimicking the storm brewing inside me. For 20 years I had loved Bronwyn with a devotion that bordered on worship. We met in university, two young dreamers with stars in our eyes, ready to conquer the world together. I was an aspiring artist, she, a brilliant literature student. Life, as it often does, steered us down different paths. I became a graphic designer, content with a stable job and a quiet life. Bronwyn, however, never quite settled. She dabbled in writing, teaching, even briefly considered opening a bookstore. Nothing seemed to truly ignite her passion, a fact that always saddened me, though I never voiced it. We built a comfortable life in our quaint village. Weekends were spent hiking through the rolling hills, evenings curled up by the fire with a good book. We had friends, a close-knit community, and a love that I believed was unwavering. Or so I thought. The first crack in our seemingly perfect facade appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bronwyn started spending more time on her phone, her fingers flying across the screen, a secretive smile playing on her lips. When I entered the room, she would quickly minimize the app or turn the phone face down. Initially, I dismissed it as work-related. She had recently taken on a freelance editing project, and I assumed she was communicating with clients. But the secrecy persisted, growing more pronounced with each passing day. Then came the late nights. Bronwyn, always an early bird, suddenly found herself working until the wee hours of the morning. "Just a tight deadline," she would explain, her eyes avoiding mine. "I need to get this finished." I offered to help, to bring her coffee, to simply keep her company, but she always declined, insisting she needed to concentrate. Suspicion began to gnaw at me, a cold, unsettling feeling that I couldn't shake off. I tried to rationalize it, to dismiss it as paranoia, but the signs were too glaring to ignore. The stolen glances, the hushed phone calls, the unexplained absences, they all pointed to one horrifying possibility: Bronwyn was having an affair. One particularly stormy evening, Bronwyn announced she had to go to London for a meeting. "It's a last-minute thing," she said, her voice a little too casual. "I'll be back tomorrow afternoon." London. She hadn't mentioned anything about a London trip. The freelance project was based in Bristol, not London. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of dread echoing in my ears. As she packed her bag, I noticed a familiar perfume bottle one I had bought her for our anniversary was missing from the dresser. My mind raced, piecing together the fragments of the past few weeks, the lies, the deceit, the betrayal. I couldn't let her go without knowing the truth. "Bronwyn," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "are you being honest with me?" She stopped packing and turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "Of course I am, Oswald. What do you mean, this London trip?" I continued. "Is it really about work?" She hesitated for a moment, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Yes, of course. What else would it be?" Her denial, so blatant and unconvincing, shattered the last vestiges of my hope. I couldn't bring myself to confront her directly, to accuse her of the unthinkable. I simply nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "Be careful," I managed to say, turning away to hide the tears welling up in my eyes. As she drove away, the taillights of her car disappearing into the stormy darkness, I felt a profound sense of loss, as if a part of me had died. I spent the night pacing the house, consumed by anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could she do this to me, to us? What had I done to deserve this? Sleep eluded me, my mind replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for clues, for answers. By morning, I was a shell of my former self, exhausted, heartbroken, and determined to uncover the truth. I decided to follow her. I knew it was a risky move, that it could potentially destroy what little remained of our marriage, but I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. I needed to know for sure. I called in sick to work, packed a small bag, and set off for London. I arrived at Paddington Station in the late morning, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. I had no idea where Bronwyn was going, but I had a feeling she wouldn't be heading to any office. I decided to start by checking the high-end hotels in the city center. It was a long shot, but I had to start somewhere. After hours of fruitless searching, I was about to give up when I spotted her. She was walking down the street, hand in hand with a man I had never seen before. He was tall, handsome, with a confident swagger that made my blood boil. They were laughing, their faces close together, their bodies touching intimately. It was as if I wasn't even there, as if our 20 years together meant nothing. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I stumbled back against a wall, struggling to catch my breath. This wasn't just a fleeting affair. It was something deeper, something more serious. The casual intimacy, the shared laughter, it spoke of a connection that had been brewing for a long time. I watched them enter a luxurious hotel, the kind we could never afford, and my heart sank. I knew what was happening, but seeing it with my own eyes was a different kind of pain, a searing, unbearable agony. I stood there for what seemed like an eternity, paralyzed by grief and anger. Finally, I pulled myself together and walked into the hotel. I approached the front desk, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm looking for Bronwyn Abernathy," I said. "She just checked in." The receptionist glanced at her computer screen. "Room 304, she replied without a hint of suspicion. "Do you want me to ring up?" "No, thank you," I said. "I'll surprise her." I walked towards the elevators, my legs feeling like lead. As I ascended to the third floor, I imagined all the possible scenarios, the apologies, the denials, the tears, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to witness. I reached room 304 and stood outside the door, my hand hovering over the handle. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, and then I pushed the door open. The scene that unfolded before me was like a punch to the gut. Bronwyn was in bed, naked, entwined with the man from the street. They were kissing passionately, oblivious to the world around them. The shock was so profound that for a moment I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Then a primal rage surged through me, a volcanic eruption of anger and betrayal. "Bronwyn!" I roared, my voice shaking with fury. They both jumped, startled, their eyes widening in horror. Bronwyn gasped, covering herself with the sheets. "Oswald, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I think the question is, what are you doing here? With him?" The man, whose name I later learned was Quentin, smirked. "Looks like you've been caught, darling," he said, his voice laced with arrogance. "Caught?" I thundered. "You think this is some kind of game? You've been having an affair with my wife." Quentin shrugged. "She's a beautiful woman," he said, as if that explained everything. "And you're just a boring old artist." His words were like a knife twisting in my heart. I had always known that Bronwyn was more ambitious than me, that she craved excitement and adventure, but I had never imagined she would seek it in the arms of another man. "How long has this been going on?" I asked Bronwyn, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me, her eyes filled with shame and regret. "A few months," she admitted. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "A few months," I repeated, my voice rising again. "A few months of lies, of deceit, of sneaking around behind my back. How could you do this to me, Bronwyn? How could you betray me like this?" She started to cry, her tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Oswald," she sobbed. "I never wanted to hurt you. I still love you." "Love me?" I scoffed. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have destroyed everything we've built together." I turned to Quentin, my eyes burning with hatred. "Get out," I said, my voice cold and hard. "Get out of here and never come near my wife again." He hesitated for a moment, then grabbed his clothes and slunk out of the room, his arrogance replaced by a look of fear. I was left alone with Bronwyn, the silence broken only by her sobs. I looked at her, at the woman I had loved for 20 years, and I felt nothing but contempt. The beautiful, vibrant woman I had fallen in love with was gone, replaced by a lying, cheating stranger. "I want a divorce," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "I can't stay with you after this. I can't forgive you." She pleaded with me, begged me to reconsider, but my mind was made up. The trust was broken, the love was gone. There was nothing left to salvage. I walked out of the hotel room, leaving Bronwyn sobbing in the bed. I didn't look back. The rain had stopped and the sun was beginning to peek through the clouds, but inside me the storm was still raging. The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings, financial settlements, and emotional turmoil. Bronwyn tried everything to win me back, showering me with apologies, promises, and declarations of love, but I remained steadfast in my decision. I couldn't reconcile with her betrayal, couldn't trust her again. The divorce was finalized, and we went our separate ways. I moved out of the cottage in the Cotswolds, unable to bear the memories that haunted every corner of the house. I found a small apartment in Bristol, closer to the city center, and tried to start over. I threw myself into my work, spending long hours at the office, trying to distract myself from the pain. I reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and tried to rebuild my life. But the scars of Bronwyn's betrayal ran deep. I found it difficult to trust women, to open myself up to new relationships. The fear of being hurt again was always lurking in the back of my mind. I became cynical, guarded, and emotionally detached. I missed the simple joys of our life together, the laughter, the companionship, the shared dreams. But I knew that I could never go back, that the past was irretrievably broken. One evening, a few months after the divorce, I received a phone call from a mutual friend. "Have you heard about Bronwyn?" she asked, her voice hesitant. "No," I replied, my heart sinking. "What's happened?" She told me that Bronwyn had been diagnosed with a serious illness, a rare and aggressive form of cancer. She was undergoing treatment, but the prognosis was not good. I was stunned. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. We had shared so much together, so many years of love and happiness. It was hard to imagine her suffering, facing such a devastating illness. I wrestled with my conscience, torn between my anger and my compassion. Should I reach out to her? Should I offer my support, or should I simply stay away, protect myself from further pain? After days of agonizing, I made a decision. I called Bronwyn. She answered the phone, her voice weak and trembling. "Oswald," she said, her voice filled with surprise. "Is that really you?" "Yes, Bronwyn," I replied. "It's me. I heard about your illness. I'm so sorry." She started to cry, her sobs echoing through the phone. "Thank you for calling," she said. "It means so much to me." We talked for a long time about her illness, about her treatment, about the past. She apologized again for her betrayal, expressing her deep regret for the pain she had caused me. I listened patiently, offering words of comfort and support. I didn't forgive her, not entirely, but I realized that holding on to my anger was only hurting me. I started visiting her regularly, spending hours at her bedside, talking, reading, and simply keeping her company. I watched her slowly fade away, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by the ravages of the disease. It was heartbreaking to witness her suffering, to see her life slip away. In her final days, she asked me for one last favor. "Will you forgive me, Oswald?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Can you find it in your heart to forgive me?" I looked into her eyes, her once sparkling eyes now clouded with pain and regret, and I knew that I couldn't refuse her. "I forgive you, Bronwyn," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I forgive you." A faint smile flickered across her lips and she closed her eyes. She died peacefully a few hours later with me by her side. I was devastated by her death, despite everything that had happened between us. I mourned the loss of our love, the loss of our future, the loss of the woman I had once adored. I attended her funeral, surrounded by our friends and family. I delivered a eulogy, speaking of her kindness, her intelligence, her passion for life. I didn't mention her betrayal, her affair, the pain she had caused me. I wanted to remember her for the good things, for the love we had shared, for the memories we had created together. After the funeral, I returned to my apartment in Bristol, feeling empty and alone. The storm inside me had finally subsided, replaced by a quiet sense of sadness and acceptance. I knew that I would never forget Bronwyn, that her memory would always be a part of me. But I also knew that I had to move on, to rebuild my life, to find happiness again. It wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to try. I owed it to myself, and I owed it to her. Years passed, and I slowly began to heal. I started dating again, cautiously at first, but eventually finding love with a kind and compassionate woman named Imogen. We built a new life together, filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. I never forgot Bronwyn, but her memory no longer haunted me. It was simply a part of my past, a chapter in my life that had shaped me into the person I am today. One day, while clearing out some old boxes, I stumbled upon a stack of letters that Bronwyn had written to me during our university days. I sat down and started reading them, my heart aching with nostalgia. Her words were filled with love, hope, and dreams for the future. As I read, I came across a passage that resonated with me deeply. "Life is a journey, Oswald," she had written. "It's full of twists and turns, of joys and sorrows. But the most important thing is to never give up on love, to never lose hope, to always believe that happiness is possible, even in the darkest of times." Her words were a reminder that even in the face of betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, love can still triumph. It may not be the same love, the same relationship, but it can be just as beautiful, just as fulfilling. I closed the letters, a tear rolling down my cheek. I was grateful for the love I had shared with Bronwyn, for the lessons I had learned from her, and for the strength she had given me to move on. And I was grateful for Imogen, for the love and happiness she had brought into my life. Life is indeed a journey, and I was finally ready to embrace it, with all its twists and turns, its joys and sorrows. I learned later that Quentin faced severe consequences. His wife, upon learning about the affair, divorced him and took him to the cleaners. He lost his job and his reputation, becoming a pariah in his social circle. Karma, it seemed, had a way of evening the score. While it brought me no joy to hear of his misfortune, it did offer a sense of closure, a confirmation that actions have consequences. I never sought revenge, never plotted against Bronwyn or Quentin. My focus was on healing and rebuilding my life. But the universe, in its own mysterious way, ensured that they paid the price for their betrayal. And in the end, that was enough. I found peace, not in their suffering, but in my own resilience, in my ability to overcome adversity and find happiness again. The scars may remain, but they are a reminder of my strength, my ability to love, and my unwavering belief in the power of forgiveness. Looking back, I realize that betrayal, while devastating, can also be a catalyst for growth. It forces you to confront your vulnerabilities, to reevaluate your priorities, and to discover your inner strength. It teaches you the importance of self-love, self-respect, and the courage to walk away from toxic relationships. And it reminds you that even in the darkest of times, hope remains and happiness is always possible. The journey may be long and arduous, but the destination is worth it. So if you find yourself facing betrayal, remember that you are not alone. You are stronger than you think, and you have the power to overcome any obstacle. Embrace the pain, learn from the experience, and never give up on love. Your happiness is waiting for you, just around the corner.